said. "You won't last a week living with me." 7 days later, I was still there. 30 days later, she stopped telling me to leave. And months later, the woman who had warned me never to get too close was looking at me with tears in her eyes, realizing I had stayed, not because I was trapped, but because I had chosen her. When Daniel agreed to move into Emma's old countryside house, he thought the hardest part would be sharing a home with someone who clearly didn't want him there. He was wrong. The hardest part was discovering why she pushed everyone away, and deciding whether he was willing to stay long enough to prove that not everyone who walked into her life would eventually walk out. Emma was 31, fiercely independent, stubborn, and known for turning every kind gesture into an argument. After losing the people she loved most, she had built walls around herself so high that even kindness seemed like a threat. Daniel, 34, had his own scars. He had lost his job, his apartment, and nearly all his confidence after spending years putting everyone else before himself. When an unexpected opportunity allowed him to share Emma's large house temporarily, he accepted because he had nowhere else to go. Emma accepted because she needed help keeping up with the property. Neither expected their lives to change. On the first evening, Emma made it painfully clear that living with her would not be easy. She complained about his cooking, his early morning routines, his habit of leaving books on the table, and even the way he hummed while working. Daniel simply smiled and kept helping around the house. Every time she tried to create distance, he responded with patience instead of anger. When a storm damaged part of the roof, he spent hours repairing it. When Emma became sick, he quietly left medicine and soup outside her bedroom door. When she returned exhausted from work, he never demanded attention. He simply made sure she knew someone was there. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of staying when life gets difficult, please like, comment, share this story, and subscribe to Kindness Space for more emotional stories. Days became weeks, and something strange began happening. Emma started noticing the little things Daniel did when he thought nobody was watching. He fixed the loose porch railing. He watered her mother's old flowers because he knew they mattered to her. He even repaired a broken music box that had belonged to Emma's family. When she saw it working again, she stood silently beside him, unable to hide the emotion in her eyes. Daniel never asked her about her past. He understood that some wounds needed an invitation before they could be spoken about. Eventually, Emma told him herself. Her mother had died years earlier, followed by the painful end of a relationship in which she had trusted someone completely. The person she loved had promised to stay, then disappeared when life became difficult. Since then, Emma had believed that depending on anyone was dangerous. Daniel listened without interrupting. He told her that he could not promise life would never hurt again, but he could promise that he would not disappear simply because things became difficult. That promise was tested sooner than either expected. One evening, Emma received devastating news about her job. The company she worked for was closing her department, leaving her uncertain about her future. She came home angry and frightened, blaming herself for everything. Instead of arguing, Daniel sat beside her in the quiet kitchen. He reminded her that losing one job did not mean losing her worth. For the first time, Emma allowed herself to cry in front of him. The next morning, she found Daniel already awake, preparing breakfast. Nothing had magically changed, but the house felt different. Emma no longer felt like she was living with a stranger. Weeks passed. They began laughing together. They shared late-night coffee, repaired the garden, and slowly became each other's safest place. Daniel realized he had fallen in love with her, but he kept it hidden because he feared saying it might destroy everything they had built. Then Emma discovered the truth. She found a letter Daniel had written but never intended to send. It described how much she meant to him, and how staying had never been about winning her over. He had stayed because he had seen the frightened woman behind her anger, and believed she deserved someone who would not leave when things became uncomfortable.